I think the fame and notoriety Lloyd got after Boyz in the Hood got to him. Lloyd may have become a little trapped by it and became the character that he portrayed. After Boyz in the Hood, kind of became a little bit abrasive. Lloyd became a tough guy. The one you might see in the club with a drink in his hand and thinking that his stuff don't stink and no one can touch him.
But the idea that we were working with someone who had the ability to kill two people is horrifying.
If you've seen Boyz in the Hood, then you'll definitely remember that unforgettable scene where Ricky is gunned down while trying to escape. The actor who played the triggerman, Lloyd Avery II, gained instant attention from that brief but powerful role, and it looked like he was on the path to stardom. But in a chilling twist, he ended up mirroring the violence of his character, becoming a murderer himself, and ultimately meeting one of the most tragic and disturbing ends imaginable.
And saw Lloyd's body in the middle of the cell, in the center of a pentagram, and there was blood all over the walls. Some sort of a satanic ritual. It was the most heinous scene.
Let's dive in. Lloyd Avery II was born on June 21, 1969, in Los Angeles, California, to his parents Linda and Lloyd Avery Sr. He grew up alongside his three siblings in the affluent neighborhood of Baldwin Hills, a place often called the Black Beverly Hills because of its wealthy black residents and beautiful homes. The Averys lived a comfortable upper-middle-class life. They had everything a kid could want: nice clothes, a backyard swimming pool, and a strong family structure. According to Lloyd's brother Shay, they were what you'd call silver spoon kids, raised with love, stability, and no real financial struggles. Education was a big deal in the Avery household. The kids went to top-tier schools, and both parents were actively involved in their upbringing. Lloyd Sr. in particular was very religious and tried hard to instill his Christian values in the children. He wanted them to grow up grounded, respectful, and focused. On paper, Lloyd Jr. had the kind of background that would set anyone up for success. He even ran with an elite crowd. Many of his friends were the children of celebrities like Quincy Jones and Smokey Robinson.
You go to Beverly Hills High School, you're a black guy, you must be pretty well off. I know that he talked about one of his best friends was QD3, which is Quincy Jones' son. They were best friends.
Lloyd attended the prestigious Beverly Hills High School, where he stood out not just for his smooth charm and good looks, but also for being something of a quiet mystery. People who knew him said he was shy in some settings, but when he got comfortable, his personality lit up a room. He was also known as a ladies' man and had no trouble making friends. On top of all that, he was athletic, playing both water polo and baseball, and doing well at it. After graduating high school, Lloyd didn't take the typical college route. Instead, he enrolled in a technical trade school. But he didn't last long there. He quickly dropped out, which didn't sit well with his father. Lloyd Sr. had hoped his son would follow in his footsteps and take up a solid trade, maybe become a plumber, electrician, or carpenter. In his eyes, those were respectable, well-paying jobs that could lead to a stable life. But Lloyd Jr. had a different dream. He was obsessed with music, particularly producing beats and creating his own sound. His mom, Linda, later said that music was Lloyd's true passion, and he spent hours every day working on it. Unfortunately, his father didn't see it the same way. The tension between them grew until it finally boiled over in a big argument. In a fit of frustration, Lloyd Sr. smashed his son's drum machine with a baseball bat, hoping it would shut down the dream once and for all. Instead, it pushed Lloyd further down a different path. Not long after that heated moment, Lloyd was arrested for the first time in 1990 after getting caught stealing music equipment from a guitar center. But just when things seemed like they were going downhill, fate stepped in. An old friend from the neighborhood, John Singleton, was working on a film, something that would later become a cultural landmark, Boyz in the Hood. Singleton wanted the film to feel raw, real, and grounded in the authentic experience of South Central Los Angeles, so he looked to his own community to cast roles, bringing in locals with no acting experience to bring the story to life. That's how Lloyd Avery II landed a part in the movie. Despite never acting before, Singleton saw something in him. Through Lloyd, Singleton also connected with Brent Rollins, who would go on to design the now iconic Boyz in the Hood logo.
This picture is a picture of me and Lloyd and a couple of the main characters from Boyz in the Hood. Everybody were just young actors.
In the film, Averys didn't play a major character, he was only credited as Knucklehead number 2. But his role ended up being one of the most unforgettable. He played one of the shooters in the heartbreaking scene where Ricky Baker, played by Morris Chestnut, is gunned down in an alleyway while trying to escape with his dreams still intact.
Knucklehead number 2 and I was Knucklehead number 1. But I think his role was a little bit more seminal because he had that prolific, if you will, shot of him extending the gun out of the window and pointing it towards Morris Chestnut before he shot him.
Singleton, who was known for being meticulous about the details, worked closely with Averys to get that scene just right. He walked him through everything: the way he should pop out of the car window, how to hold the shotgun, and even the exact kind of expression he should wear when pulling the trigger.
I remember him being directed, to give that look and where to look and the eyes and everything. So, John pulled that out of him.
On the day of filming, tensions were high. Cuba Gooding Jr., known for his method acting, was in his trailer preparing to portray someone about to witness his best friend's murder. As he walked onto the set, Averys made a comment to him. Gooding, deep in character, snapped back, saying, "Don't you effing talk to me right now." The two actors got face to face, and crew members had to intervene to prevent a physical altercation. The tension between the characters Doughboy and Ferris had been expertly built up by Singleton throughout the film. He knew that if he could nail this scene, it would become iconic, and it did. The scene not only became a defining moment in black cinema, but also a landmark in film history. For Lloyd Averys II, it was a turning point that changed his life forever. Boyz n the Hood was a box office sensation, garnering multiple Oscar nominations. John Singleton became the youngest and first black film director to receive such a nomination, establishing himself as one of Hollywood's most promising directors. The film launched the careers of its lead actors, Nia Long, Cuba Gooding Jr., Morris Chestnut, and Ice Cube, who all went on to enjoy great success in the industry. However, the success of Boyz n the Hood also brought unexpected fame to Lloyd Averys II. Despite his brief role, his performance was so impactful that people recognized him everywhere he went. Averys' newfound celebrity status opened many doors for him. He started getting VIP treatment at clubs and soon signed with a talent agency. This led to guest spots on various TV shows, including Doogie Howser, Maryland. His music career also began to gain traction. Leveraging the connections he made from his role in Boyz n the Hood, Averys produced a song for Tisha Campbell, famously known as Gina from the TV show Martin. In 1993, Campbell released an album that reached number 37 on the US Billboard charts, with Averys contributing as one of the producers. In addition to his burgeoning music career, Averys' good friend John Singleton had another film lined up for him, Poetic Justice, starring Tupac Shakur and Janet Jackson. Although Averys was credited as Thug number 1, which wasn't much of an upgrade from his previous role as Knucklehead number 2, he still saw it as a step forward. He even managed to get his younger brother a role in the movie, playing Thug number 2, who stood next to him in the arcade. Much like his character in Boyz n the Hood, Averys played an antagonist who killed an innocent man. While Averys' role in Poetic Justice was small, Singleton had bigger plans for him. Singleton saw potential in Averys and aimed to gradually cultivate his talent by offering him increasingly significant roles in future projects. Despite these promising plans, Poetic Justice faced initial setbacks. Although it would later become a classic within the black community, the film was a commercial failure upon its release and received poor reviews from critics. Critics weren't the only ones unimpressed with the movie. At the world premiere, as the credits rolled, Averys stood up among the audience and loudly declared, "Man, John, that ish was whack." This public outburst strained his relationship with Singleton and was indicative of Averys' increasingly erratic behavior. After the release of Poetic Justice, Lloyd Averys' talent agency received numerous calls offering auditions for him. However, there was a significant problem. Averys wasn't showing up for these auditions. On the rare occasions when he did attend, he arrived unprepared, often not knowing his lines. This behavior puzzled industry professionals, leading to rumors that Averys was trying to live the gangster lifestyle he portrayed on screen.
I think the fame and notoriety Lloyd got after Boyz n the Hood got to him. Lloyd may have become a little trapped by it and became the character that he portrayed.
Malcolm Norrington, who played a member of Ferris's crew in Boyz n the Hood, found the rumors particularly baffling. He remembered Averys as shy and meek during filming, with no hint of street life in him. So, hearing that Averys had supposedly embraced gang life made no sense to him. Despite these doubts, Avery began exhibiting increasingly erratic behavior. One notorious incident involved him macing popular MTV VJ Downtown Julie Brown during a heated argument at a club. This event marked a turning point in his life.
After Boyz in the Hood kind of became a little bit abrasive, Lloyd became a tough guy. The one you might see in the club with a drink in his hand and thinking that his stuff don't stink and no one can touch him.
Leaving behind his upper-middle-class home, Avery relocated to the Jungles, a notorious neighborhood in South Los Angeles with strong affiliations to various blood gangs. This area is also known for being the filming location of a memorable scene in the 2001 film Training Day, starring Denzel Washington. Avery began to openly affiliate himself with the Black Pea Stone Gang, even tattooing its name over his eyebrow to show his allegiance to the neighborhood.
At some point early on in the film, I saw he had a tattoo across his forehead, and it said Jungles.
Jungles are a neighborhood in South Central LA. It's La Brea and Coliseum, and it is known for heavy gang activity and violence and drugs.
Obviously, there was much more going on than I knew about him, and then he shared. You know, why do you get Jungles tattooed on your face, and like, what are you trying to prove?
Baldwin C. Sykes, who played Monster in Boyz in the Hood and was a friend of Doughboy, offered some insight into Avery's transformation. Sykes believed that Avery's shift towards gang life was fueled by the respect he received in the Hood for his on-screen portrayal of a blood gang member who killed someone. Sykes himself experienced similar reactions from people who praised him for his role, where he used an AK-47 during a retaliation scene at the end of the movie. He often had to remind admirers that he was just an actor and that it was all fiction. However, for Lloyd Avery, the lines between reality and acting blurred significantly, and he embraced his on-screen persona as his real-life identity. Lloyd Avery II's younger brother Shay eventually followed in his footsteps, joining the Rollin' 60s Crips. Shay's involvement in gang activities led to his imprisonment for 4 years. While Shay was incarcerated, Lloyd's focus shifted entirely to building his reputation as a feared blood gang member, and his acting career came to a grinding halt. Lloyd wasn't seen in another film until 1996, when he had an uncredited role in Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood, directed by Keenan Ivory Wayans. By this point, Lloyd had burned nearly all his bridges in the film industry, including some of the most significant ones. John Singleton, who had once been a crucial ally, had to distance himself from Lloyd due to his increasingly erratic behavior and frequent insults. Similarly, Quincy Jones Jr., who had been good friends with Lloyd, found himself on the receiving end of late-night calls from Lloyd, where he would boast about being the king of the streets and claim that nobody out here is harder than me. Quincy Jr. attempted to calm him down, but Lloyd's behavior was too unpredictable, and eventually, he had to cut ties as well.
I separated myself from Lloyd, and John was separating himself from Lloyd because Lloyd had started committing crimes, and he was really embracing that gang-banging lifestyle.
In 1997, Shay was released from prison. During his time behind bars, Shay had decided to renounce gang life and make a positive change. He hoped that his brother Lloyd would follow his lead, but it was not to be. Despite the continued support of their parents, Lloyd remained lost and disconnected. His aunt, Carol Avery, also tried to help by encouraging him to reconnect with his faith and attend church. Lloyd would often accompany her to church, but he usually stayed outside or left before the sermon. Carol believed that something was holding him back from hearing the message he needed. Lloyd's life in the Jungles neighborhood, once a source of pride and identity, became increasingly dangerous. He got into an altercation with someone, and fearing for his life, he was forced to leave the area. The same day the altercation occurred, Lloyd left the Jungles. Lloyd Avery II's life continued to spiral out of control as he moved from place to place, often living with people he barely knew. His unstable lifestyle led to numerous altercations, and in one instance, he even maced the mother of someone he was staying with. Eventually, Lloyd found a more permanent, albeit modest, living arrangement in a supply office building that offered small rooms for rent and a shared bathroom. He was now surviving on residual checks from his earlier films, working at a car wash, and selling small amounts of drugs on the side. Despite the life he chose, Lloyd's family remained willing to support him. However, he seemed committed to the rough path he had carved out for himself. He also developed a severe addiction to PCP, also known as Sherm, which further complicated his life. In February of of 1999, Lloyd made a brief return to acting with an uncredited role in the movie The Breaks. Yet, the gangster persona that had overtaken his life was about to lead him to a point of no return. On July 1st, 1999, Lloyd Avery's descent into violence culminated in a tragic and deadly confrontation near Santa Barbara Plaza. An argument broke out between Lloyd, Annette Lewis, and a man named Percy Branch over a drug deal. During the altercation, Lloyd pulled out a .45 caliber handgun and shot Annette Lewis multiple times, killing her on the spot. He also shot Percy Branch in the stomach, and Percy succumbed to his injuries 3 weeks later.
A car pulled up and somebody was talking to Annette about some money or something, and a man started shooting. Annette tried to run and get away. She was shot in the back about 5 times. Annette died a short time later.
And he's also developmentally disabled.
Before he could expand more on his thoughts about the whole incident, he died.
In the aftermath of the double homicide, one might expect Lloyd to go into hiding or flee from the authorities. However, Lloyd's actions defied this expectation. Instead of laying low, he left the state, not to evade capture, but to take on another acting role. Just 13 days after committing the murders, Lloyd was on the set of a new film, Lockdown, directed by Master P. The movie was being filmed in an abandoned prison in New Mexico, and Lloyd's participation seemed almost surreal given the gravity of his recent actions. Lloyd Avery II's behavior on the set of Lockdown was increasingly problematic and erratic. He was caught stealing, smoking PCP, Sherm multiple times, and getting into physical altercations, including one with actor D'Andre Bonds.
Lloyd on Lockdown was a complete pariah. When he would interact with other crew members and cast members, it was a disaster.
His disruptive conduct led to the production team cutting some of his scenes. The situation reached a boiling point when he got into a confrontation with a makeup artist named Melanie Mills. Attempting to physically attack her, Lloyd was stopped by Master P's entourage, who intervened, beat him up, and subsequently kicked him off the set.
He got into a fight with the poor makeup artist in the makeup room. He got in a fight with another actor on set, and then the tattoo artist had to separate them.
In a bizarre twist, Lloyd ran away from the abandoned penitentiary where they were filming, heading towards an active prison. Still dressed in his prisoner costume, he inexplicably jumped the gates, setting off alarms and prompting the guards to draw their guns on him, ready to shoot. The chaos was only diffused when the director of Lockdown intervened, vouching for Lloyd and instructing the guards to stand down. The state of New Mexico was not pleased with the incident. As a result, Lloyd was escorted to the state line and barred from returning to New Mexico. Despite the tumultuous filming experience, Lloyd returned to Los Angeles with a renewed sense of optimism about his career. He was particularly excited about his next project, where he would have his first leading role, playing the character G-Ride. However, Lloyd's troublesome behavior continued to follow him. According to the film's director, Lloyd demanded to be referred to as G-Ride off camera and insisted on taking his prop gun home, treating it as if it were real. His erratic behavior escalated to the point where he reportedly threatened to kill the director on multiple occasions.
I know that the director was threatened by him and that he was actually really afraid. And he would throw out careless statements.
As 1999 drew to a close, Lloyd's wild ride was about to come to an abrupt end. One night in December, while staying with his grandmother in Beverly Hills, Lloyd spent time with his younger brother Shay. Shay, who had once followed Lloyd into the gang life but had since turned his life around, sat with his brother, reflecting on life. During their conversation, Lloyd looked up and said, "You know what? I had a good life, man." By the fall of 1999, wanted posters for Lloyd Avery began to appear, and he knew his time was running out. In the early morning hours of December 8th, 1999, as he slept on the floor next to his grandmother's bed, he heard the police approaching. He went to his brother's room, gave him a hug, and said goodbye. Making a desperate attempt to escape, Lloyd fled out the back on his BMX bike, but was eventually caught and arrested for double murder. While awaiting trial, Lloyd underwent a significant transformation. He reconnected with his faith, reading the Bible daily and carrying it with him to every court appearance. Despite his newfound spirituality, the legal system showed no leniency. He was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison.
December 11th, 2000, Lloyd Avery was convicted in the double murders of Annette Lewis and Percy Brand.
In prison, Lloyd Avery II earned the nickname Baby Jesus because he was always preaching and talking about the Bible. His deep devotion to Christianity became well known among the inmates. However, his faith would soon be tested in a tragic way. One day, Avery was assigned a new cellmate named Kevin Roby, a man serving a life sentence for the brutal assault and murder of his own sister. Roby had a history of violent behavior, including multiple assaults on other inmates, which had resulted in years of solitary confinement. Despite Roby's notorious reputation and stark differences from Avery, prison officials inexplicably placed the two men in the same cell.
His cellmate being a Satan worshiper and Lloyd having turned it around and was very religious at that point. Like, why were those two ever put in a cell together?
Lloyd Avery, a devout Christian, and Kevin Roby, a committed Satanist, were complete opposites. On September 4th, 2005, shortly after Roby's arrival in the cell, Avery began talking to him about Christianity, attempting to convert him. This led to a heated argument, which quickly escalated into violence. Kevin Roby attacked Lloyd Avery, beating and choking him to death. Roby hid Avery's body under blankets on the bed, and remarkably, corrections officers failed to notice Avery's absence for the next 11 body counts. It wasn't until Roby drew a pentagram in the middle of the cell and placed Avery's body there, along with satanic messages written on the wall in Avery's blood, that the gruesome scene was discovered.
And saw Lloyd's body in the middle of the cell, in the center of a pentagram, and there was blood all over the walls. Some sort of a satanic ritual. It was the most heinous scene.
When asked in court why he performed this ritual on Avery, Roby chillingly referred to it as a warning to God. Lloyd Avery's family, devastated by his brutal murder, attempted to file a wrongful death lawsuit against the prison. However, their efforts were thwarted when the NAACP legal team and legendary lawyer Johnny Cochran declined to take on the case. With no legal representation willing to help, the family ultimately dropped the lawsuit. Some of Avery's family members believe that he may have suffered from undiagnosed mental health issues. They speculated that his erratic behavior could have been influenced by drugs, or perhaps by his inability to separate himself from the violent character he portrayed in Boyz in the Hood. His story is a cautionary tale of life imitating art with profoundly tragic consequences. Lloyd Avery II was only 36 years old when he died, a promising actor whose life spiraled out of control, ending in a violent and untimely death. Rest in peace, Lloyd Avery II.